Welcome back. Wednesday, Governor Jack Dalrymple proposed his budget for the upcoming legislative session. So with me tonight in the Hot Box, the new Senate Minority Leader Max Schneider, also freshman legislator Ben Koppelman. To both of you, thanks for being on the Friday Roundtable Hot Box.
Thanks for having us.
Senator, I want to start with you. You've been fairly critical of this budget for one reason in particular, and that is the property tax relief. Governor Dalrymple proposed $714 million in property tax relief. That's a big chunk of change. You're still critical of it. What should he have done?
Well, all of us are for property tax relief, obviously, but what the governor's budget does is essentially continue the property tax buy-down approach that we've taken in the last two sessions. And that's necessary to provide property tax relief, but I really don't think it's sufficient if you want to provide a cut that people are really going to feel. We're going to be working to exempt a certain percentage of a primary home's value, so people will really feel a tangible tax cut. Beyond that, Chris, the governor's approach to tax relief, I think, is misguided. $25 million in corporate income tax cuts. There aren't that many C corporations in North Dakota. One of them is Walmart. I think we should be focusing on deeper property tax relief for North Dakotans.
And I agree with you, Senator, but here's the thing, and I think you agree with this. Corporate taxes are one of the most regressive taxes out there. Walmart doesn't really pay those taxes. They just pass it on to their consumer, which obviously can be some of the most poor people out there, if you will. Your comment on that?
Well, and they still brag about their low prices. I don't think Walmart is even asking for a corporate income tax cut from North Dakota. I'm sure they'd take it if they even noticed if they got one. But when it comes to that $25 million in tax relief, let's direct that towards North Dakotans who could use a break on their taxes.
We'll come back to that. Ben, your thoughts on the property tax program?
Well, in the property tax program, Chris, I think it's important that we remember that when we're talking property tax relief, that's basically defined as returning it to the people who paid that tax. So when we look at whatever sort of system we have, Mac mentioned the buy-down. The mill buy-down is extended in this program. However, it's extended for the sake of folding it into the education funding and making it permanent, which I think a lot of people were concerned. What's going to happen in 2 or 4 years if the legislature keeps saying, well, we're going to do a 2-year fix and a 2-year fix? Are we really going to have permanent property tax reform? I think his budget sets the groundwork for making it permanent. So I think that's important.
But doesn't it then end up expanding the payments that the state and the taxpayer is going to make to K-12 funding?
I don't think that the governor had done an interview after, probably with you actually, where he had said that his goal was to define how much of a state role we have in education, what percentage the state should be paying, and what percentage should be left to the locals. And this is the first step to getting the property tax down to an affordable level. And then making that decision, okay, what level is the state going to fund?
But isn't that just a shift? Because, yeah, maybe it's going to lower your property taxes, but taxes are still going to be up locally in order to make up for how much the state is subsidizing this education. Now, speaking of education, I want to move on to higher ed. I've got a comment here, if you will, from Chancellor Scrivani I want to play for you, and then share with you my thoughts and get your thoughts on how this funding formula is going to work for higher ed. Here's Chancellor Scrivani.
The only thing that I'm disappointed is that I didn't get the positions that I wanted to do my job as the chancellor. We asked for 30 positions and we got 7 positions, which is not even 1/3.
Ben, I said this is going to be the most intense legislative session in the history of North Dakota. Here's a chancellor that asked for $84 million, got 89, and you just heard him, I'm not happy. Your thoughts on that?
Well, in the governor's proposal, and I'll be the first one to say it's this thick, and I have not read it all yet. So I'm going off of first blush. But the governor's
said... No, but you just heard the comment. I mean, talk to me. That's a chancellor saying, I'm not happy when I just got $5 million more than what I asked for.
Well, the governor is setting what his view of it is. The chancellor's got his ideas on what he should do. The legislature's job is going to be to balance all those perspectives, to take what higher ed is asking for and what the governor said. I don't think I'm prepared to say that the governor did the right thing or the wrong thing in relation to what higher ed's asking for at this point without further study. But what I do know is that's the legislator's job, is to sort through that. I think that proposals aren't always going to be parallel.
You work in a district at a lot of UND students. Your comments on that soundbite, plus how much money higher ed gets.
Well, the chancellor and I guess, are upset about different things. I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't hear much about students in the governor's address. Certainly, we're increasing merit-based scholarships. Very happy about that. Didn't hear anything about capping tuition. Didn't hear anything about increasing need-based financial aid. And so, you know, the chancellor can worry about how many people he's got in his office. We should really be focused on students because they're the ultimate beneficiaries here.
This thing is bloated enough. You guys have seen the graphs. The non-teaching employees now in the higher ed system are far outpaced the teaching employees, and these young students are paying for it. Now, for you to say that they didn't address the cost, He says right here, we're changing the funding formula so it actually goes to the cost of educating the student. Can you share with us your thoughts on that and this funding formula change that's taken place?
I think that's a productive step. I really do. And it sounds like both NDSU and UND are willing to make a good faith effort to make this work. But the way we funded schools in the past, it's kind of just been historical. Well, you got this last year, so you're going to get a little bit more this year. I think it makes sense to look at how many students we actually get through the system and have funding in part based on that. So we're going to work towards making this go effectively for our campuses.
Mac, you've been around politics for a long time. Quickly, will this be the most intense session ever in the history of North Dakota?
I think it'll be the most intense session. I also think we have more opportunities than North Dakota's ever had.
We'll keep people abreast of that as we go. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being on the Friday Roundtable.
Thank you.
It is going to be very, very intense. And again, this show, 630 POV, is going to be your place to stay on top of what's happening with your tax money through this legislative session. Stay close. We all know the real reason for the season is to go out there and make a difference in your community. Coming up next, the president of Dakota Medical Foundation, Pat Traynor, is going to talk about how you can be the most impactful giver this holiday season.